Yeah. Hello, it's very nice to see you again. I know that a lot of you are fasting, so I expect a lot of people on the Zoom rather than here. But for those of you that took the chance to come, I'm really grateful. And we're going to say that the opportunity cost of you coming is really higher than the one on Zoom. So that's something we're going to look at it today. We're going to look at some conceptual foundation of cost benefit analysis. And we're going to look at the Haldor-Hicks compensation criteria and Pareto. So we're going to look at certain conditions that we want for cost benefit analysis. Hopefully it's going to be useful for you. It's going to be rather theoretical, okay? So everybody relax, fine. And then we're going to have a break, and then we're going to look at social insurance, okay? So before looking at social insurance, we're going to look at private insurance and what are the issues with private insurance and how that equilibrium works or doesn't work with asymmetric information. And then we're going to talk about social insurance and why the government has to provide social insurance, okay? So that's the plan for today. But before I do that, I have some housekeeping announcements. Okay, excellent. So here in this QR, it's the information about the mini module that you're taking. On the first lecture, I told you about a little mini project that you can do or cannot do. It's up to you, okay? And it contains 2 sections. However, we're going to solve this on Friday. However, if I don't get a lot of solutions for the mini project, I'm going to skip the solutions and I'm going to carry on with the lecture because it's not fun if I solve it for you. It's a lot nicer if you have a go, okay? So here in this Padlet, there is something that is called the mini project. So look at it and try to solve it. It doesn't need to be right. It can be perfectly wrong, okay? And we can talk about how the solutions are. In order to do that, I'm going to ask you to post your solutions on this tablet. So we're going to all have access to all your solutions. The idea is not to see who's right or who's wrong. That is really irrelevant. It doesn't matter. What I want is to see your workings, how difficult or how easy it was, okay? So that's all the housekeeping, okay? You have now 2 QRs, one with the exercise and the other with where to post your solutions, okay? You can also send them to me by email if you wish to do so, that's fine. So, are we ready to talk about cost benefit analysis? Yes, okay. So off we go. Why do we talk about cost benefit analysis? Well, last week when I was talking to you about equality and poverty, and we were measuring all of this, we said that we were looking at positive measures, measures that come from mathematics, basically from statistics. We were looking at the distribution of income or distribution of health, and we were measuring how equal or unequal was this distribution, correct? So we were making no assumptions about what's right or wrong. Some of you asked me, oh, well, actually, which is the better distribution? And I told you I didn't know. I don't know if more equal is better than more unequal. So we don't know because it's a positive measure. Today, we're going to move on into talking about normative issues. What do we believe is the right allocation of resources? How many slices of the cake we should do? Okay, so it's a bit more normative. What do we think? And in very good words, this Hungarian economist called Peter Bauer, super famous on cost benefit. So he said that the fundamental issue for the welfare state is not economic, it's moral. So we're going to move a little bit into thinking about ethics. What is the right distribution or allocation of resources? Because remember, what's economics? In economics, we're dealing with scarce resources, okay? We want to divide all the resources amongst people, and we want to do it in the most efficient way, okay? So there are arguments of efficiency and there are arguments of equity. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back into teaching you a little bit of ethics, okay? There are basically two ethical systems that comprise all the other ethical systems, okay? And these ethical systems, the first one is called consequentialism, and the second one, non-consequentialism. So the first one is this class of ethical theories that say that the consequences of one's conduct are the ultimate basis of any judgment about the right or the wrong of that conduct. So, have you heard the expression white lie? It's a little lie, okay? It's not a big lie, it's just a little lie. So I tell my mom says, have you taken your jumper to school? And to avoid any issues, I say yes. But actually, I left my jumper at home. Okay, so I'm trying to avoid a big problem. So according to this school of thought, this is correct. And this is correct because what matters is that I didn't have a big problem with my mother, okay? So that's one way of thinking. Another way of thinking is the non-consequentialist approach. And that says that actions are either right or wrong, regardless of the consequence, okay? This is what we call Kantian ethics. And Kantian ethics are based on deontological thoughts. Deontological, deon comes from Latin and it means duty. It means duty. Deon, duty. So it's right or it's wrong. So if you kill someone, it's either right or it's wrong. There is no way about it. Oh, Maria, but what does this have to do with us as economists? Remember, we're trying to allocate resources, okay? So this is going to throw in some social welfare functions, okay? So nowadays that a lot of you are voting for new president or you have voted for new president, you will have the opportunity to, in a way, decide which is the best social welfare function, okay? These welfare functions are exactly as your utility functions. Do you remember utility functions when you were doing microeconomics? And we want them monotonic and differentiable and all very pretty, and they had these indifference curves. Do you remember? Yeah? Okay, brilliant. So we're talking about the social welfare function of everybody, okay? So these social welfare functions can be divided into two schools, consequentialists and non-consequentialists. Obviously, consequentialists, what matters here is the outcome, okay? So there are welfarist social welfare functions, and the outcomes is assessed by the consequences for the individuals. There is something that is called egalitarian welfarism that comes from neoclassical welfare economics. This means that what matters to the society is not how we divide all the goods, how we divide McDonald's or Starbucks or other things or computers. It matters how we divide education, health, certain merit goods, okay? So for certain merit goods, it's going to be more egalitarian, and for the other goods, I just add all the utilities of everyone else. Another non-welfarist approach Another welfarist approach is, and you have heard of this, being utilitarian, okay? So you as economists have had a lot of utility functions, correct? And it says that everything, what matters is the utility, okay? The sum of all the utility. I'm going to give you one example, and then it's going to be a very crude example, but it might be helpful for you to understand. There are no welfarist approaches where there is no utility information, okay? This is specific egalitarianism that means about merit goods, and the capability approach that says that we're not going to include utility information in the social welfare function. What we're going to include in the social welfare function is going to be the capabilities, because the set of capabilities are going to give us functioning, okay? So that's what matters. However, it's very difficult to approach. A non-consequentialist approach means that we cannot draw social welfare functions from that, okay? So according to Kant, right, wrong, that's it, okay? So I'm going to give you a terrible example, okay? It's going to be a difficult example, but it more or less is going to help you understand. So imagine that there are 5 patients who arrive at the hospital. They will die if they don't receive a transplant. 2 patients need a kidney. 3 patients need a heart. 4 need a liver. Patient number 4 needs a liver, and patient number 5 needs the cornea. Okay? So, okay, they need all of these transplants. They go to hospital. So think about these as resources, okay? This is what the society needs, okay? Then somehow in the hospital, there is a healthy patient. He just went to the hospital for a quick checkup. However, it turns out that his tissue is compatible with all these other 5 patients. Okay? This healthy patient has no family, nobody who cares about him, no friends, because he's a mean professor in economics. Nobody likes him. The doctor knows that he could save 5 lives. So what do you think the doctor will do? Should he kill the patient to save 5 lives? So I'm going to ask you now, okay? And this is completely anonymous, but to think, okay? So you join the activity, so take out your phones and let's see what you think. It sounds so cold, doesn't it? But 5 lives, you will save 5 lives against someone who we don't know. Ready? So, what kind of social welfare function do you support? Consequentialist or a non-consequentialist? How difficult, right? Welfarist or non-welfarist? Well, it's really lucky that this is anonymous, right? So yeah, most of us as economists, we support the welfarist approach and the consequential, because we're trying to allocate scarce resources, okay? So just bear in mind that in the future, you're going to probably be Ministry of Justice or Ministry of Education or Ministry of Health or work for the UN. Just take into account, that this has some ethical background and you're trying to allocate resources. Okay, so in order to allocate resources, how do we ask the government to do it? Well, we're going to ask the government to do cost benefit analysis. Okay? So the cost benefit analysis is usually the comparisons between costs and benefits of public goods for projects to decide if they should be undertaken. Okay? So cost benefit analysis seems like a very simple accounting exercise, correct? I just count all the benefits and then all the costs. Subtract. If it's positive, go for it. If it's negative, don't do it. So why do we need a lecture on this? Okay, we'll find out. So I love this phrase. This was a letter from Benjamin Franklin to Joseph Priestley on the 19th of September, 1772. And he said, well, when I have an issue, I just put piece of paper, okay? Put a line in the middle, benefits, costs, and see which one I think. So if you think about this problem that we have, it doesn't seem too complicated. You kind of don't need to go to university to do cost benefit analysis because you just can add up. And in life, we make these decisions, okay? Should I go to lecture? Shouldn't I? Should I do my mini project? Shouldn't I? What are the benefits and the costs? We do them here, okay? However, as economists, we don't look only at the accounting costs and benefits. We're going to talk about the social costs and the social benefits. Maria, what does that mean? So we looked at the cash flow accounting first, but we also look at the opportunity cost. This opportunity cost is the social marginal cost of any resource is the value of that resource in its next best use. Also, it's known as the shadow prices. Have you heard about the shadow prices? Somewhere in micro, no? Okay, some of you are nodding your heads. So yes, you have seen them. Can you remember when you're maximizing utility subject to a bunch of constraints? Yeah? And then you do this with a Lagrangian, correct? And then you have a lambda operator that multiplies that constraint. That lambda is usually the shadow price, okay? So that's mathematically. But what does it mean? What is this opportunity cost? Okay. So the opportunity cost is what you could have done otherwise. So let's think about you in the lecture. So you came today to the lecture, sat down here, it's a little bit hot, a bit uncomfortable, you're fasting, so it's not amazing. But you could have stayed at home, correct? And that would have been a little bit more comfortable. So that's the opportunity cost, that other activity. In terms of cost benefit analysis, should we build a hospital or a jail? Okay, so this is the opportunity cost. Because obviously the government is constantly evaluating between projects what is the best outcome, okay? Provided that you have an opportunity cost. You could have used this money in one thing or another. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about healthcare. And when we talk about healthcare, we have to price life, okay? And we have to do some kind of cost benefit analysis. So do I invest on people who have cancer that are going to die anyway? Or should I put all my resources into infant care? Very complicated, but that's the opportunity cost, okay? That is the opportunity cost. Do you remember the production possibilities frontier? Let's see if you remember it. I'm going to remind you, okay? So this is the production possibilities frontier. And I can say here, I can have a bridge, or I can have a hospital, or I can have a combination of all of them, correct? It can be education and health. These are the opportunity costs, okay? So I have to compare between two possibilities. And these shadow prices sometimes do not match with the market price. So it's not such an easy accounting exercise. So if someone was looking at how to evaluate constructing a hospital, not only how many lives they're going to save in terms of how many people cannot cross the bridge, but also what's the price of the inputs? What would be the price of labor if you decide to build a hospital in Jakarta or in Bali? What's better for the country, to do it on a rural or on an urban setting? Okay, so you can see that these prices do not match equilibrium. Okay, so I'm going to show you how they don't match. So the social marginal cost of any resource is the value of that resource in the next best use. It's also known as the shadow prices, and it indicates the intrinsic true value of a factor of production in the sense of equilibrium prices. These prices can be different also between time periods, also different between geographical places, and different regarding several types of occupation. So let me show you. This is, we're going to look at the quantity private and the price private, okay? And you can see that they demand and supply cross. So there is a P private is the price of the market, and that's the quantity of the market. However, imagine, okay, that this price of private is very low. What can you think? What kind of good do you think this could be? This could be labor, okay? So the wages in the economy are super low, okay? When they cross how many units they need, supply and demand, when they cross, the prices of wages, the prices of labor are low, okay? With respect to what the society values. So the society wants a higher price. So can you see this P social is higher and produces a shift, okay, of the supply. So we have lower quantity but higher price. So that's one of the reasons, and I don't know how it works in Indonesia, but I'm sure you have a minimum wage. Because if you let the market, like Adam Smith would say, and you let the invisible hand, well, these poor people will earn nothing. So the government comes and says, no, there is an externality, because there is an excess supply. So we need to increase wages. Okay? So that is the shadow price. Okay? So we try to run these regressions that you do in econometrics to try to find this price. When I was young, thousands of years ago, when I finished my degree, my thesis for my first degree was to estimate the shadow price of labor in Mexico. It was a big project by the World Bank. It was super interesting because we could find also the differences in regions. And we could see how in Mexico at the time, people were moving, okay? They were moving with the crop. So whatever the crop was, they were moving for higher wages, okay? And all of them moved towards the US. Some of them cross the border, some of them don't, okay? But it's the driver is the higher wage. So we were able to find these social prices and to tell the government, well, if you're going to do a project, especially if you do it in the south than in the north, because you will get higher benefits, because the prices, the social prices of labor are a lot higher. Okay, so formally, and now we're going to start with a bit of math. I know we have a plan here. One of your lecturers likes math. Okay, so don't need to master this concept, but just think about it a little bit. Okay, so we have that the economy has two types of agents. Private agents, like you and me and the industry and everything else, and the central planner. And we're going to call the central planner the government, okay? The government is trying to maximize the social welfare function, the one we talked about at the very beginning of this lecture, about when I told you about 5 kidneys and this and that, remember? Okay, that's social welfare function. So they're trying to maximize these social welfare functions. And private agents behave systematically in response to a vector F. So this vector F is a vector of signals, okay, that summarize all the relevant variables affecting their behavior. Prices, taxes, quantities, constraints. So the planner has this fabulous social welfare function, B, that they want to maximize. And they want to find a possible function, phi, that is going to be a possible policy, a feasible policy. So I was talking to one of your lecturers earlier today, and she was telling me that government allows you to produce policy as economists, okay? So imagine in the future, you're going to be central planners, and you have this function of all the social welfare function, and you want to choose a phi that associates each public production plan set on the environment. S. Plan set environment S. What? Okay. So imagine that you're trying to build a bridge or a hospital. The agents in the market behave in a certain way. So they have certain constraints, okay? And they signal, they have certain prices. So this is S, okay? What all the agents do. And the plan is set, okay? Once a policy phi is specified, there is a unique environment associated with each plan. So if I decide on phi being hospital, there is going to be a unique environment for that. Or if I decide to build a jail, there's going to be a particular plan for the jail and so on. So we can associate with each production plan a level of social welfare. Now, I want you to try to answer this question, okay? And as per usual, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. I want to know if the shadow price of labor is higher than the market or lower than the market. Don't be scared. Only 3 brave people. I hope it's not your lecturer. 6, okay. More. Come on. Yes. How about yes? I'm not gonna know who said what, okay? Okay. So excellent. Yes, it's higher than the market price. Okay. Why is that? Why is that? Because it's a good that behaves like this. Okay. But you can have other things that behave lower. What could be your guess? interest rates. Interest rates behave the other way around, okay? So the social cost of the interest rate is lower than the market price. Okay, so the formality says, if I have this big problem of maximizing this, so I'm maximizing this big function that depends on x. So b, there is a function of x, and I'm maximizing subject to that s exists in between 0 and infinity, and S also includes the plan. Okay, so when I maximize this function, I find that the differential of b is equal to the partial of b with respect to S. This is the chain rule for all of you who love this part. And the partial of phi with respect to Z, with each of the plans, times Bz. And it's there on your slides, okay? So, obviously, and this is just cost-benefit analysis, if D is greater than 0, if it's positive, okay, then it's a welfare improvement. I have done the right thing. So I take you back to your Lagrangians for those who love them. I used to love them when I was young. So B, I can take B out of it. And I can define B, this little sausage here. This one, I'm going to call B, okay? So that is the shadow price vector B, okay? So if B said is positive, voila, you do the project, okay? I'm not trying to confuse you, okay? I see some heads like nodding because they are a bit more advanced, and some heads that are like, what is she talking about? Relax, okay? One day it will click, okay? So I'm going to give you the general, okay? And then when you study this more in detail in your lectures, you're going to say, I remember this Maria told me this. Yes, now I get it. So I'm going very general, but don't worry, okay? Just take out the general idea. What types of cost-benefit analysis do we perform? Okay, so usually governments do, and they invest most of their money on this, on doing ex ante. Ex ante means before, okay? So before they decide between a jail or a school or a bridge or whatever they have in the social welfare function, they do cost-benefit analysis. Or that's what they say they do, okay? This is the most popular type of cost-benefit analysis, and it should be standard, okay? We should try to do it for all the projects that the government spends money on, not only during elections, correct? We also do, this is less common, but it happens, exposed cost-benefit analysis. Exposed cost-benefit analysis is absolutely great. Everybody should do it. It should be part of everything. Because by the time that you do exposed cost-benefit analysis, all the costs have sunk. The real prices and the real costs have appeared. So all the things that you didn't think about when you're doing your cost-benefit analysis, they appear. So it's a great learning curve for the government. I can tell you that most international organizations do expose cost-benefit analysis because they have the resources. However, not all governments do it because they forget, oh, we have already done the university. Who cares if that was a good idea or not? It seems it worked okay. We're scientists. We should be able to do it at the end and see how much, okay? So it's something that when you become famous economists and are directors of places, you should impose, because that's a great learning lesson. We also do cost benefit analysis in the middle of a project. That is hardly done, okay? It exists, but it's hardly done. It's good, but also you don't have all the resources to start evaluating things. It became a lot more common during COVID, okay? So that's when people will say, oh, oops, let's do this type of cost benefit analysis. Okay, so which type of criteria is going to give me this, yes, I'm going to do it? That shadow price, remember there, that I said, okay, if this is positive, I'm going to go into doing this project. The criterion that we use mostly is Pareto efficiency. Do you remember? By any chance, you remember Pareto? So imagine I have an Edgeworth box. So I have a little box, okay? And I have some utility functions like this, okay? And some other utility functions like that. Yes? Remember? Yeah. Primary school. And we said that where these indifference curves are back to back, okay? They are Pareto. And we say that the line that connects them is the contract curve, okay? That's Pareto. So what does Pareto mean in little words? Pareto means that there are no incentives for me to move from one equilibrium to another without affecting someone else. Okay? If I move, I affect someone else. So there are no incentives to move. I'm in perfect equilibrium. Now think that this wedge box looks very nice, but it's oversimplistic, okay? We have two individuals. Yeah? So imagine that we have n individuals. That's why you do maths, because we cannot imagine it anymore. So we can do it, we can do a box with a bit of volume, but we cannot solve the problem. That's why we need to have different dimensions, correct? Okay. So an allocation A is a list which describes the use of resources in an economy, the consumption bundles, the amount of labor, the use of inputs. So in other words, it's general equilibrium. What's happening here, what I'm saying is Pareto, is that the marginal rates of substitutions for all individuals I is equal for everybody, okay? All the marginal rates of substitutions. Moreover, for all the industries, all the marginal rates of transformation for all the industries J are the same, are equal to each other. I is equal to J, yeah? So, marginal rate of substitution of J for everybody. And here the marginal rate of transformation for K for everybody. They are all the same, okay? So we have, there is general equilibrium. Everybody is at the best possible solution and there is no incentive to move. Okay, let's think about this. So let's assume this Edgeworth box, and let's say that this is a point like this, where the contract is back to back, is efficient, correct? So one individual has all, and the other individual has nothing. That's efficient, okay? But that's not equitable. We're not saying it's fair. We're just saying it's efficient, okay? So Pareto gives you a very good way of deciding things, but in terms of efficiency, not in terms of equity. So careful. So a lot of the times when you're doing projects, you say, yes, this is efficient, excellent. Let's just think if it's equitable, okay? Okay, now, another way of deciding is what we call the Kaldor-Hicks compensation criterion. Have you heard about Hicks? Yes. Like Hicksian, yes, like the Hicksian demands, yes. The compensated demands, yes. Okay, so this is the Kaldor-Hicks compensation criterion, and Hicks is the same guy with the demands, okay? So he said that the policy should be adopted if and only if those who gain would fully compensate those who lose and still remain better off. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to give you one of my favorite examples because I'm very passionate about it. Brexit, okay? I was a Remainer. However, Brexit happened. So imagine we are back in 2015 before the time for Brexit happened, and there is this group, and I'm going to assume you are the group that says, let's go for Brexit, and you are going to be the Remainers, okay? So here we are, all of us, Remainers, very good, really, and you guys want to vote for Brexit. So you're telling me that it's going to be better for the country if we go Brexit. So what are you proposing? What is Kaldor-Hicks saying? If it's really such a good idea for Brexit, you guys are going to pay them, and it's still going to be a good idea. So you go and compensate me for not being part of the European Union. And I said, well, actually, that makes sense. If they're willing to pay me, that actually is a good idea. So this project might be a go-ahead. Okay? So this is a great idea in principle, but like many things in academic world, is not very realistic. Okay? What happens is that compensation never takes place because it would require measuring benefits and costs for each person. It has very high administrative costs associated with implementing the transfer system, and the transfer system will distort individual behavior. What do I mean? So I will say, well, actually, I thought that my cost for paying out of the European Union was £10,000, but now I'm thinking it's more like 20. Would you pay me, please? So it distorts behavior, okay? The Kaldor-Hicks is fundamentally flawed. This is because it not may be able to rank two policies, X and Y. So when I put P, I mean preferences, weak preferences. So it may conclude that if X is preferred to Y and Y is preferred to Z, but not X prefers to Z. So as you remember from your micro lessons, there is no transitivity, okay? And that is an issue for us. It may also conclude that X is better than Y, preferred than Y, and Y preferred than X. So there is an internal issue with the way we define the Kaldor-Hicks compensation criteria. So we don't like it, okay? So we like Pareto, but we have to be careful. The Kaldor-Hicks sounds reasonable, but we don't like it either because it never takes place. It's not practical. So what are the practical issues? We have to involve comparing the benefits versus the costs of some proposed action. In order to make a decision, one must determine the net benefit of the proposal, which requires measuring the benefits and the costs in the same units, okay? So the shadow price of labor has to be in pounds or in rupees, and the costs should be in pounds or in rupees. Everything has to be on the same unit in order to do this. Individual consumers and firms consider only their own benefits and costs, but we're trying to consider the cost and benefits to the society as a whole. This can lead to some problems. It can be, one of the problems is being utilitarian, okay? So if you're utilitarian, what are you saying? You're adding utility. Say utilities include a lot of individual preferences. Remember on the first lecture we talked about needs, and I told you needs, not wants. But the utility may also be wants. What if the society decides that it's better to have, instead of schools, it's better to have shopping centers? Because they think in their utility that is much appreciated. Okay, so that's one of the problems. Policymakers may disagree on the expected net benefits and the discount rates. You can see this every day on the news. Okay, so what are they talking about now in Indonesia? Well, the president is saying, well, my discount rate, I think I'm going to do great for the country. So putting some social welfare function, and the resistance is saying, well, actually, that doesn't make sense, okay? There is this political disagreement. Learning about net benefits over time may lead to abandoning projects. So that's also one of the issues. And this is a little test to know if you are awake or not. So I want to take you back to the theory. And if you could tell me what is the first theorem of welfare economics? You can Google it if you want. Okay, so about 10 people over break and 10 people were correct. So that's indeed, okay? So a competitive equilibrium is Pareto efficient, okay? A competitive equilibrium is Pareto efficient. That doesn't mean equitable, but it's Pareto, okay? Competition. The aims of the cost-benefit analysis is to achieve a better allocation of resources, but the first theorem of welfare economics says that markets are efficient but can be unfair. So that's one of the reasons the government interferes. And even if there is a market failure, one must demonstrate that the proposed policy is superior to the status quo. So why should we build more schools? Or why should we build a hospital? It should have an improvement on welfare, on the welfare associated with these social welfare functions, okay? Who uses it? Governments, and by law, they need to do it, but some other international associations also construct it. So let's think about a little project, okay? Like building a new highway. And we're going to decide, the first thing that we need to decide is whose benefits and costs count. For example, are we going to talk about the benefits and costs of the people in the area or about everyone in the country? What do you think? Local, regional, or all the country? Any brave souls around? No? Everyone, all the country, okay? Because we're all paying for it with our taxes, correct? So we need to know if it's good for everyone. Global, national, state, or local. we need to look at the portfolio of alternative projects. It can be binary or continuous, okay? So building a new highway or building a train or building some kind of transportation, okay? So it could be between two projects or a highway that has 4 lanes or one that has 8 lanes, okay? So that's one of the things. We need to catalog all the impacts. So use all the benefits and costs. And this is a little bit different because we have to look into account the social viewpoint. Safety alternatives, routes, accidents avoided. What would you do with the roads in Indonesia? I will build another road for the motorbikes, no? That will reduce a bit of mortality on the roads, no? Maybe? Okay? All the opportunity costs. We need to predict the impacts over time. We need to monetize the impacts all in the same unit. And we need to calculate the discount rate, okay? So this social discount rate, okay, would be C, and then divided 1 plus D, that is the discount rate, to the power of T, the time, okay? This discount rate should be the social one, okay? Usually we use interest rates, okay? Or we use inflation just to perform a bit of sensitivity analysis. So we find the net present value and we perform sensitivity analysis and we conclude. And you notice that this formula is super sensitive to the denominator. So according to D, this can change a lot. The higher the D, what will happen? Well, let me show you what will happen, okay? So I have a little example in Excel. Hello, everyone on Zoom. Okay, so this is a little example, okay? So I'm repairing a road over 5 years. The interest rate is 4%. Everything is in dollars, okay? So I have my years, then I have the benefits. Obviously, on the first year, there are no benefits. And some of these benefits might be negative, okay? Because I made a lot of noise, so everybody's complaining. You know, when you go and there is road works and you're saying, this street is super congested. It's just a pain to pass through there because they're building whatever they are, okay? So this is 0, and then it starts increasing over 5 years. I also estimate the costs. Take into account that these benefits and costs, I have also taken on benefits, reduction of pollution, all the social things that will affect me, the shadow price of labor, so on. So I have the costs, the benefits, and I construct the discount factor. And that was that formula that we have, okay? So it would be C, and C is the difference between the benefits and costs, okay? Divided by 1 plus D to the power of T. So for the first cell is 1.04, that makes sense, yeah? And so on. And then I estimate the cash flows for each year. So by the end of the year, by the end of the 5 years, this net present value is 876. Do I go for the project or I don't go? Yeah, yes, Maria, we do it because it has a positive net present value. Okay. The next example, notice that the interest rate is 7.8. Okay. Moreover, 7.8%. So that increases a lot these values. Okay. And my cash flow. So at the end of the day, when I compute these things, I go into a negative number. So do I go for the project or I don't go? No, excellent. So we don't go for it. So the interest rate is a big issue. I'm going to take you back in a time travel to 2019. Okay. So that's the time when we all froze and COVID was happening and oops. What do you think happened to cost benefit analysis? Imagine that 2019 is here. What a problem, right? I did all my estimates thinking that the discount rate was 7%. But then in 2021, the discount rate went to 15%. Yes, shocking. So things can happen. And that's something we're going to look at the next part of the lecture, social insurance. Bad things can happen. And that's why you need to forecast with some sensitivity analysis. You can use inflation, any other things on the discount rate to try to make sure that your project is actually viable. Now, COVID was a very extreme case. We hope that never happens again. Okay, but nobody could see it. Okay, it was not bad estimation. It was just completely a shock to the market. Okay, so that's more or less how it works. So let's go back to the slides. If we put. And finally, we conclude. Okay, there are some real examples on this. So I'm going to leave it here. Okay, so this is cost benefit analysis. These are the general issues. And then we're going to have, what do you think? 15-minute break or 10 minutes? What's best for you? Okay. 10-minute break, okay? So go stretch your legs and I'll see you here in 10 minutes. And we'll start with the next part. Hopefully we'll finish soon so we can go home, okay? Yes. Wash your faces because we're going to have a bit of math, okay? So get ready. Other color. Thank you. Yes, that's good.
Maybe I will do 5 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so hopefully you're ready now. Yes? Refreshed. So what commonly make a public sector cost-benefit analysis more challenging than the private sector? Is it political? Is it market failures? Is it project revenue estimates? Is it bureaucracy? And it's only one correct answer, okay? I know you all want to say everything, but you have to choose. There is one correct answer. Who is right? Who is wrong? Okay, so approve that democracy doesn't work. Okay? It's not political affiliation. That has nothing to do with it. I know it's in the news today, but no. It's the market failures. It's the market failures that makes it a lot more complicated because both private and public sector face the same political environment. They face the same bureaucracy. They face the same project revenue estimates. Oh, clever. Someone did it. And market failures. Market failures is this thing of the shadow prices that you're going to get so good at estimating, okay? So, excellent. Oh, 5 now. Wow. Okay. Choose one of two. Are you ready?
Can you click on that?
Creation of new jobs. A, an economic benefit, a social benefit, an economic cost, or a social cost. Don't guess, okay? Try to think. Excellent. So it's an economic benefit. Okay, wakey, wakey. Come on. Last one. Leaderboard. Ooh. Ooh. Adverse effects on the environment is. Please get this right. And be brave, okay? Answer. Ta-da! Democracy works. Finally, it's a social cost. Excellent. Oh, Sakura. Okay, so moving swiftly on, we're going to talk about social insurance. Why are we looking at social insurance? We're looking at social insurance because it's the highest government expenditure. All governments spend on certain goods that behave, they are providing social insurance, health, education, pensions, housing, and so on. So the main expenditure on public goods that behave like insurance are health, education, any welfare payment. I think you have a lot of cash transfers. So they're a type of insurance, okay? So we're looking at social insurance because it's the largest, the biggest expenditure in public and social policy, and it behaves like insurance. While you are working, okay, you're paying taxes. And while you're paying taxes, these taxes help to pay social insurance for you and your family. And there are things that we don't see, that they are not direct. For example, roads, lights, safety, jails, that sort of thing that we don't see as part of our taxes, they're part of our taxes. Even when you are not working, in some countries, like in the UK, but in all countries, you are entitled to some level of social insurance. In Indonesia, this program on social security is mandatory. And here, let's think, it's mandatory for all businesses. And there is a reason why everybody should sign to this, okay? And we're going to look at the reason why. Everybody should, employers more register all their employees, and Social Security covers some small aspects of healthcare, old age benefits, and pensions. So it's not very wide, okay? This program in Indonesia is very specific for certain things. So God forbid if you have a health problem because it wouldn't be covered. However, it's superior to the health system in the US, okay? So social insurance, this social security mostly covers this. And this main expenditure on public goods, they behave like insurance. So the second reason is because it's a convenient way to think about it in this form, because markets are efficient. So we're going to first look at private insurance, see how good it is, and then how the government interferes, okay, to provide this type of goods. They provide this type of goods because all of these goods are associated with market failures. And we're going to see it specifically. Health, huge market failure, It's a positive externality, but it's also negative externality. It's a large percentage of expenditure of GDP. It has micro, it has macro. It's just a bundle of joy, okay? So it has all the possible market failures. And free markets are not able to provide the right quantity of these public goods, or the allocation is inefficient. And even if it's Pareto, it's going to be unfair. So the government has to intervene. So for all of you who like this movie with Joe Black, I love it. So I left you one of these videos for an expression that is called death and taxes. That's the only thing sure. You are sure you're going to die, and you're sure you're going to pay taxes. That's for sure. Okay? So when you have time, you can see that. So we're going to look at some background in private insurance. Okay? So imagine that we have an individual, and this individual has X dollars and faces some probability P that she may end up only with Y dollars. X, here important, X is greater than Y. Okay? So here we have this individual that in the good state receives X, and in the bad state receives Y. What could be the bad state? It could be an accident, okay? So your earnings drop. It could be also unemployment. It could be anything with probability P 1 minus P. So very simple, okay? The world, one person, and two states of the world. Put them up. Okay, so this person thinks, I'm going to buy insurance, and I'm going to buy insurance at size K. Okay, so I'm going to buy insurance value K. Because when I see my endowment is X and Y. Okay, so you see this line, correct? But I have the option of buying insurance. This insurance has the value of K. The price of the insurance is called alpha, and that's the premium, okay? So in the good state, so if nothing happens, I don't have X, I have X minus alpha K, correct? But if something bad happens, I'm with Y plus K, because that's the size of the insurance, minus alpha K. So I'm relatively covered, okay? So look at this line, okay? This line is money with bad, money with good, okay? Do you remember how to obtain the slope of a line? Yes, do you remember? Yes. Of course you remember, but just in case you don't, is the rate of change of x divided by the rate of change of y, correct? So this delta x over delta y is going to be minus alpha k. So that's the change, yes? Over k that multiplies 1 minus alpha, yes? All my algebra correct? So this is alpha over 1 minus alpha. So this line has this slope. Is it a positive slope or a negative? Negative slope, okay? And that's the sign. So I'm saying that the marginal rate of substitution of this is going to be alpha over 1 minus alpha, okay? So that's the premium. Imagine, okay? Imagine that the premium is increases. How does the line look? Does the line look flatter or steeper? As the premium increases, because as the premium increases, this line is flatter, okay? So think about it. So imagine that alpha was 1. So minus 1 over, well, 1.5. 1.5 over minus 0.5, okay? So, and I increase it, how would it look? It looks flatter, okay? So as the premium increases, this marginal rate of substitution is flatter. As it decreases, it becomes steeper. Okay, so far, nobody's lost? No? So, the private insurance company, what is the private insurance company doing? The private insurance company wants to maximize profit. And profit is going to be alpha K. What is alpha K? Alpha is premium and K is the size of the insurance. So for the company, alpha K is your total revenue, okay? So let me write it down here. If the firm is trying to maximize profit, so if I'm maximizing pi, remember, and profit, it's equal to alpha K, and I'm going to say this alpha K is don't like this red. So this alpha K is total revenue. So how much do they sell? Minus probability that K happens. These are plus 1 minus P times 0. This is total costs. So all the benefits are total revenue minus total costs. Okay? In perfect competition, because there are hundreds of insurance markets, the expectation of profit is equal to 0. Therefore, alpha is equal to P. Okay? Until here, okay-ish. Clear like a drop of water or clear like a drop of mud. Okay. So far, okay, we're saying that alpha should be equal to P. Okay. We want to find the marginal utility of the good state and the marginal utility of the bad state. Okay. So this equation 2 kind of comes at the end. Okay. So imagine that I have utility of money is going to have diminishing marginal utility. It's going to be m to the power of a, and a is going to be between 0 and 1. In other words, utility looks a little bit like this, okay, with diminishing returns. The more money you have, the less marginal utility, okay? I suppose it's the opposite, but I've never had enough money, so I don't know. Okay, so that's the way it looks. So imagine if I have U of m is equal to m to the power of a. And in our case, money, U of x is equal to x to the power of a. Yes? So the marginal utility of good would be what? Yes, ax to the power of a minus 1, or in other words, it could be ax to the power of 1 minus a, correct? Okay, by symmetry, you do the same with the bad state, okay? So this is good, and the marginal utility of bad would be a to the minus 1, a 1 minus a, which you have okay, here. You have the marginal utility of good and the marginal utility of bad. However, when I had in my previous slide this here, remember that here, this is like my budget line, okay? And here, I should have some indifference curves. These indifference curves touch here, and when the marginal utility of good or bad satisfies this equation, okay? So I'm more or less there, and I have found out that the marginal rate of substitution was a over 1 minus a, and that p MUP over 1 minus p marginal utility of good, okay? However, the condition for this to happen, for the individuals to buy insurance, is that the marginal utility of bad is equal to the marginal utility of good. If you don't understand the maths, at least think about it from, just think about it from intuition, okay? So intuitively, okay, what does this mean? It means that you want to be in the same utility level when something bad happens that when something good happens, correct? you're only going to buy insurance. So imagine that you are starting to drive, okay? You're starting to drive a car and you want to buy insurance for this car. They buy you the most expensive car. So let's dream. You have a Lamborghini, okay? So you're driving this Lamborghini and you're very worried that something is going to happen with it. So you buy insurance. How much insurance would you like to buy for this magnificent car? Well, I would like to buy full insurance because I want to be in a place where my marginal utility of someone smashing my beautiful car is the same as my marginal utility of someone not smashing my car. Okay? So marginal utilities, I want to be in the same state. Okay? However, from this particular situation, you can see that the marginal utility of good is smaller than the marginal utility of bad. How does this happen? Because remember on the first slide, we say that X was bigger than Y. If nothing happens, you have more money than if it happens. Look at it. X is bigger than Y, okay? So if these conditions happen, you might need to increase the marginal utility of good or decrease the marginal utility of bad. The only way to do that is to buy full insurance. So this is the only equation that satisfies this. So if I substitute here X minus alpha K, I find out that I buy full insurance, that K is equal to X minus Y, that I'm fully protected, okay? I'm not talking about the preferences of the individuals, if they are risk lovers or not, okay? I'm just talking about the probability, okay? So here the individual buys full insurance. Excellent, so the maths work, private insurance works, let's buy full insurance. Huh? Okay, so I'm going to tell you there is a bit of a problem. It turns out that we as individuals, we know better the type of individual we are, our preferences, if we are risk lovers or if we are not risk lovers. If I take my Lamborghini to be parked in the middle of the most busy street in Yogyakarta, or if I put it in a parking place very carefully parked, okay? I know better my type. So from the point of view of the insurance companies, suppose that there are two types of individuals, okay? High risk and low risk. Here, the 45-degree line means full insurance, okay? So we were okay with all the maths that I show you. Some of you got it, some of you didn't, but we all believe that we're gonna buy full insurance. Excellent. So I am here in this line, but I know that there are two types of individuals, low risk and high risk. Notice that the low risk individuals, their indifference curves are a little bit flatter. Can you see? And the high risk are a little bit more curvy. You see that? Yes? Okay. Why are they flatter? Because the marginal rate of substitution for the low risk is a little bit smaller. I don't want to run any risk because I really love my Lamborghini, or I really love my health, or I really love my education, okay? Whatever I'm insured. And the high risk, the marginal rate of substitution is a little bit larger, okay? So they may decide it like that. So the markets are like this. This is the insurance, okay? So what will happen to the insurance market? If the insurance company knew exactly who was high risk and who was low risk, they will offer different contracts. And for you that you don't care too much, I'll offer you this contract. And for you, I will offer you this other type of contract. But the problem is that there is asymmetric information. The insurance company has no idea if you are careful or not careful, okay? They don't know the time. So what the insurance company is going to do, and here I have in the middle, where all the lines are, I'm going to offer, instead of a separating equilibrium, like two different insurance contracts, I'm going to offer one insurance contract. And this insurance contract is in the middle, okay? So the high risk go up in an indifference curve, and the low risk go down in an indifference curve. And this is called a pooling equilibrium. Oh, excellent. So I offer this pooling equilibrium. That's fabulous, right? But if I am low risk, I don't want to pay that much, do I? So it doesn't attract me. I'm not interested. I don't want to buy this insurance because it's too expensive for me. And my indifference curve just went down. I want a better insurance company. Better insurance, okay? So this pooling equilibrium is not Pareto because I can move to a better place. All the insurance companies know that, so they offer me a slightly better deal, so to attract low risk. Okay? This, I left you up the paper, the original paper is 1976, it's the Stiglitz Rothschild paper on insurance. We use it all the time. If you haven't read it, read it, because it's going to be part of your curriculum at some point. And it's interesting. So the pooling equilibrium doesn't work, and the separating doesn't work. So the problem with insurance is asymmetric information because individuals know better their type. Asymmetric information means hidden information in this case, because I know better. If another insurance company offers a contract at point star, all the low-risk individuals will prefer it, and it will be very profitable for the company. Therefore, the pooling equilibrium is unsustainable. And it's very difficult to offer separating equilibriums because we don't know the type. So this is with private insurance markets. Now, what happens with social insurance markets? So how can a social insurance market work and avoid the problem of asymmetric information? And I told you at the beginning, membership is compulsory. You pay taxes, okay? That's why we know from the first slide, maybe, this social program is mandatory for all business and employees, and they must register their employees. Whether they are low risk or high risk, it doesn't matter. So the government is able to correct asymmetric information. And how do they do it? By obliging everybody to buy full insurance, low risk and high risk, regardless of their type. So that's a good thing about social insurance, that membership is compulsory. That's why I like this video. So if you have time to watch it, you have to do it, okay? In some countries, it's compulsory to buy car insurance in case you hurt someone else, okay? Okay. So pooling equilibrium doesn't, separating equilibrium doesn't work, and it doesn't work because I don't know the time. Pooling equilibrium doesn't work because I have individuals, low-risk individuals will opt out. The government decides to force membership, so it starts working. Okay, now we talked about hidden information. Now we're going to talk about hidden action. And hidden action is what we call moral hazard, okay? Individuals with insurance might engage in risky behavior because losses are borne by the insurance company. So the moral hazard is a problem when individuals can influence these probabilities, the probability P1 minus P. Okay, the individual can influence the probability. So if I insure my Lamborghini and I leave the keys inside because I don't care if they're gonna pay for it. When I have insurance for fire and I'm not careful with the candles that I turn at home because I know the insurance is gonna pay for it, there is moral hazard. So an individual with car insurance may take less care to prevent the car being stolen, or an individual with health insurance may take less care to prevent sickness. For example, poor eating habits, no exercising, because they know that they are insured, so they don't care. Okay, that's moral hazard. There is also something that we call exposed moral hazard. Moral hazard is the biggest problem here, okay? So after a bad state occurs, the insured individual will overuse the service. For example, if you have health insurance and you are sick, okay, and you go to hospital and you know that your insurance is going to cover absolutely everything, you think, oh, wonderful. Can I also have a test for my cholesterol? And can I have another blood test because my hair is not shiny? And can I have something else for my nails? They go with every single thing. So moral hazard is a big problem, okay? Dealing with moral hazard, how do private insurance do it? They use premium discounts for good behavior, no claims discount. They offer deductibles for not providing full insurance. Inefficiencies arise since insurance premiums will be higher and insurance companies may not offer full cover. The bottom line is that adverse selection and moral hazard cause market failure in private insurance companies. But what happens with social insurance? So with social insurance, we solve the problem of asymmetric information, hidden information. But what about moral hazard? Remember that they made my membership compulsory. So that means that social insurance exacerbates the problem, makes the problem worse in social insurance. Because people who have, like, for example, in the UK, NHS is free to everybody, whether you're working or not working, all possible treatments. And there is a lot of moral hazard. So people don't look after themselves because they know that doctor bill is picked up by the government. And there is a lot of post moral hazard because they know, oh, now that I'm in hospital, can I ask for another test and another thing and this and that? So it's an issue, okay? So the rationale for social insurance is better because there are economies of scale and lower administrative costs. Social insurance creates social cohesion, like we are closer to each other. But that depends on the type of society. There are two types of society, collectivist and non-individualist. So some societies that they just want for themselves, they don't want for the rest. Indonesia is a very collective society, so Mexico too, the UK no. It can be designed to help to achieve redistributive objectives. And some arguments against social insurance is that the public sector is very inefficient. And it's not inefficient, not because we have bad people in power. Has nothing to do, it's not personal. It's just because it's a monopoly. And you have seen, no? Monopoly is not very good for the economy. So competition has lower prices and bigger quantities. And monopoly has higher prices and lower quantities. There are also some incentive effects. So people who have unemployment insurance, they don't want to find work because anyways, the government is giving them money. So what's the point? And it increases moral hazard problems. So we'll finish very early because I know you are a bit tired. But I covered everything that I wanted to cover. It's a bit mathematical topic, but I think you can make it as maths or as intuition as you want. So I hope it was useful. Do you have any questions? Complaints? Round of applause? So, as always, it's a pleasure to be with you. So if you have no further questions, we're going to leave it here. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm super excited because it's one of my favorite topics. And the University of York is super famous for health economics. So we're going to cover that. And on Friday, we're going to do the mini project. If I see that not many people submit their answers, I'm going to go with other lectures and move the mini project towards the end of my visit, if that's okay. Okay? Perfect. See you soon. Thank you.